Welcome again to another episode of the Dialed and Driven Hockey Mentality Podcast. My name is Chris Palmer. I'm a mental performance coach for hockey players throughout North America and Europe, sitting across from Jeff Lerg, former professional goalie. Today, we're going to talk about something that's really directed toward where you are in your season. We're at the midpoint. It's the midpoint check-in. But before we do that, we're going to be talking with Natalie, who's going to talk to us with our question and answer session and give some of the listener questions and see what we come up with.
Yeah. So I'm Natalie Ferentz, and I'm the producer of this podcast. And a part of my role here is to introduce questions that you guys ask us every week. And for Chris and Jeff, and maybe even myself, to give you guys actionable advice on ways to help you not only in mental performance, but hockey, or just any questions that you guys have that you want us to answer. So the first question is, how can I tell when my athlete is mentally struggling versus just tired?
I'll take it. Usually I answer first. And I always ask Natalie not to tell us the question so I can give an organic answer. So it was, how do you know if your athlete is tired? Is that what you said?
Is mentally struggling or just tired?
Got it. Thank you. So I'll say I've been an athlete, a coach, and I'm a parent, but my young athletes are still young. So I haven't had the actual assessment. Chris might be able to give more of a parental view from his kids that he's watched grow up. But I will say, just from being a bystander of that situation, I always say the athlete needs to lead the parents to what they want to do and where they want to go. And if you kind of sense that loss of excitement and them kind of waiting to get to their activity, or maybe them not knowing, is it a game or a practice date or who we're playing today, if you can kind of gauge that level of interest starts to kind of dwindle, I would view that as one thing to look for. I don't know, Chris, do you have anything more from what you've seen through your kids through the years?
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with guys I work with, I say that parents know whether their kids have enough sleep, have enough food in general, or if they're sick. Get those things first, okay? If it's none of those things, then it's something else. But the other thing is there's a day and then there's a pattern. A pattern is a real mental performance issue. A one-off, that's a one-off. Anybody can have a bad day. But yeah, so I'd want to go down the checklist. Are they eating and sleeping and they're not sick? Great. No big bad thing happening in their lives. Great. Then let's see if there's a pattern. But yeah, anybody can have a bad day, but definitely the pattern.
Very nice. So our second question is, how do I handle the feeling that I only have one chance to impress scouts?
Yeah, we always say you're always looking to make that first impression. You never know when the scout will be in attendance to watch you. But the reality is that's how you have to treat every day. It's just, it's almost like this minor league hockey player mentality. You're living to survive the week, because at the end of the week or even end of the day, you could just be given your papers that you're cut or released. So now we got to apply that to youth sports. That's this just every day, live it to the fullest. We talked about gratitude and being gracious for the opportunity to play. But if you operate with that mentality that this is my one opportunity to do it, that should just be repeated every day. So every day you're bringing your best. Every day you're going to be the best you can be. And then also understand that scouts and coaches all talk. So they're all going to be able to share what they saw of your performance, regardless if it was, a day early in the year or a day late in the year.
Yeah. I mean, I have two great examples. There's a kid I work with in Florida. He came up here and he was at a tournament in Dearborn, and he had nothing going on. He had no interest in him for juniors. And all of a sudden he had 3 games over the weekend, and, the Brown Bears saw him and liked him. Stuff happens. So you never know when you're going to get the opportunity. But I think an even better one's Hadley Hudak. Hadley Hudak's a guy who didn't have everything just gifted to him. I mean, he definitely had to grind through 15s, 16s, 18s. Great guy. He's public about this. I'm not sharing anything private. What's great about him is he wasn't having the best time when he was at Springfield. He was busting his butt, trying to make it work in the null. And he had a breakout day. Just a breakout day. He had a hat trick. On that day, one day, he gets a call from Michigan, gets a call from UConn and Lake State. And he's playing for Lake State. That's one day. So really, you never know when it's going to happen. And like you said, being awesome every time puts you in a position where if the right person is looking at the right time, you're going to be seen.
Yeah, and then lastly, just so the stress isn't there to the athletes, like your numbers of the year tell the story. He might have had a hat trick that one day, but if he finished the whole year with 3 goals,
right.
then there's going to be some red flags on that performance. So although you might have an awesome day that might lead to that, at the end of the day, your consistency is going to be shown.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, if you would like to leave questions as a listener, please visit our website, goaliementors.com/dialedandriven. Or if you don't want to remain anonymous, you can DM us on Instagram at dialedandriven.
So we talked about this idea before of intentionality, and what a better way to use intentionality as we're coming to this midpoint, to have a mid-season check-in, just see where you are. It's so easy sometimes to get in this pattern where you're just doing the same thing every day. Go to practice at 3, go to practice at 3, maybe I do shooting, go to the gym. And it can feel like you're just doing things instead of doing things intentionally. And that's a problem, because I guarantee if you're thinking about things on a weekly basis, daily basis, you'll find that you need more of this or less of that. It's important. But Jeff, we were talking before off camera, there's a really good story you have about this whole idea of checking in with yourself to kind of really get a reality check as to where you are in the season.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect time of year, Christmas time, holiday season. You're seeing your friends and family that maybe you haven't seen in a while, and everyone's asking you the question, hey, how's the season going? How have you been doing? And you can't lie. You gotta have that honest assessment with yourself and truly get to what the real answer is. Are things going well for your team? Are things going well for you? Is everything kind of working out and playing out the way that you envisioned that you wanted the season to go when it started? So for me, I haven't shared this story yet, but my freshman year at Michigan State, I was coming in as a freshman goaltender. Previously, we chatted about I had some good success in junior hockey. I was the whole junior hockey player of the year and the MVP of the league. And I came in as a freshman at Michigan State. And I knew what I was getting into. I was going to be the backup goalie to a goalie who was an All-American as a sophomore. So now he's a junior. I'm a freshman. Come to the midway point of the season. Holiday time, my record was 1 win, 2 losses, and 3 ties. So I had 1 win after I just set previously in juniors the all-time wins record the year before, right? So I'm used to winning. And I'm used to playing. And so I had to have this honest assessment with myself, like, okay, what's been going well? What's something you want to change? Like, where do I want this season to end? Because I didn't go to college just to say I wore the jersey. I went to college to impact the team. And just like we talked about previously, I did work out hard over the holiday break on my own. I did actually, schedule some training with a former coach of mine. Like, hey, can you just put me through the ringer? Like, just work me doing some goalie drills. And there was nothing scientific. It was just hard work. So I did have a few really good skates and hard sessions. Then when we came back for our practice on Christmas night, like we had to open up presents in the morning and practice Christmas night because we had our holiday tournament over the break. And I was on fire. And then going to that next weekend, and again, I'm sitting on the bench for the first game of the weekend. So we make our Great Lakes Invitational. It's an old college hockey tournament, the GLI, and we make the final. And the final's the next day. Again, I'm on the bench. And this was the turning point in my college career, because up to this point as a freshman, team had played 18 games or now into 20 games at the midway point. I played 6. Right. So obviously I wasn't the starter. So in this final of this tournament, my goalie partner ended up getting pulled. We were getting dominated by Colorado College. I think we were down 5-1. I came in, played really, really well, shut the door, made a little comeback. We didn't win the game, but I played really well in my chance. First time playing at Joe Louis Arena. It was a good experience. And so next weekend, it's my time, we go through a week of practice, have a good week of practice. Coach gives me an opportunity to play on Friday. And it was against a weaker opponent, but it was my opportunity to play. I got a shutout. So then now it comes to the Saturday start. And this is kind of where things took the turn for me in a positive way. The coach wasn't going to play me that night. Again, it was a weaker opponent, but I got a shutout. But he was going to go back to the normal starter. This goalie partner said, my eye infection. Something's going on. I can't really see right. So anyways, I go in again. get another shutout. So now I go back-to-back shutouts, 3 really good performances in a row, half a game and then 2 shutouts. So the next weekend comes, and then this is the telltale of it all. Who do they go with? They go back with me. So I go in, have a great game, let up 1 goal. And then boom, I go again, another game with 1 goal. So long story short, I finished that season playing 18 out of 19. Way down the line, they gave him 1 more start. Then I was a starting goalie in the NCAA tournament and kind of finished the year as the starter. So I wanted to bring that up and give all the details of that, because I was at that point freshman year where I wasn't playing, and I had to kind of look to say to myself, where do I want this season to finish? Like, what can I do to control everything I can control? And there's no more time of talking. I got to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, you decided to do that, and you decided to do that during the holidays, which is not so easy, right? Because there's things that you got friends from out of town. If you're in juniors and you're away somewhere, or let's say you're just building somewhere in youth hockey, you get back home, you got all your friends. There's lots of distractions, lots of really, really fun things to do, and in all that really fun stuff, do you really want to self-assess? I mean, for some people, they just want to break because they've been doing this for months, and it's hard. It's a grind. So you bring up this good point. But you decided to get past having fun. You had fun, found a way, but you still made time to think about where you wanted to go. It's hard for people. They get pretty burnt out. I mean, have you seen that with any of your friends, any people you've seen? They go home and they sort of disconnect, and maybe they're not back so sharp.
Yeah, I think you have to have that self-assessment, really. Like that's just one story of the many years I played. Some years I was playing every game, every minute. I did need that little mental debrief and kind of come off it. You're always going to have to train. You're an athlete. There is some element of always being prepared to be in your top shape, but you can have that gauge be different depending on the circumstance. So the honest assessment is really what needs to happen. For me, that was the one where I just wasn't happy with how the first half played out, even though I was a freshman and they're not expected to be the starters and all that. I didn't buy that story. I wanted to make an impact, and that was kind of the Cinderella ending of it. And that propelled me into kind of taking over. And at one point playing 74 straight games in the future. It was just, there was a turning point, and it was at that time, but it all started with this self-assessment.
Yeah. So to give you guys something usable, how do you do this? You talked about self-assessment. What was that? And really, I'd love to hear from you, Jeff. How did you look at it? I mean, you looked at it as, hey, things weren't really so good, but what made you make the step to go do the crazy workout, and to just really make this shift to decide, okay, well, I'm doing this, but maybe there's more. Maybe there's more I'm capable of. What helped you decide to do that? Because there's a bunch of things you could have done. You could have taken a lesson. You could have, done sprints. What kind of put you in that direction?
Yeah, I always knew I was really good when I played quick. So I knew what the strengths of my game were. And, you get into a new setting, into the college team, you're kind of getting your time to get your feet underneath you. Like, what's the day look like? What do I got to do for school? What's our team workouts look like? What do I get for, goalie time or goalie coaching, which at the time I didn't get much, but it wasn't really the norm back then. It was just, got a few touch points. But I didn't really get that time that I always had where it was like work on your quickness drills. So I said, I just got to have a couple really hard days of just all quickness drills. Like, I knew my strength, and when I played quick, there was no one quicker. So that was what my focus was. Like, what can I do over this break to just work on my quickness drills? And that's why, like, a practice on Christmas night, like, I was dynamite. We were doing 3-on-0 drills, and I must have just made 10 A+ saves.
That's awesome. Well, we talked a couple of times in earlier podcasts about Bedard, just this crazy arc where he comes in, he's amazing, and then his second season, these big gaps, 10, 12 game runs with no scoring. Talk about self-assessment. He was in a really, really kind of tough crossroads. He could have said, hey, this isn't really for me. It's embarrassing. He could have pulled inside himself, but he really figured it out with all the extra time. So step one for you guys, if you can, is think about what's working and what's not working. What is working right now? Are you getting the things you want? Are you succeeding in practice? Are you succeeding in your drills? Are you getting the kind of ice time you want to have? And if you look at all that, you're going to find things that are really, really good. And you can work on those strengths. But then you're going to see things just like Bedard with those 10 or 12 game runs. You're going to see things that weren't working. And what are those things? Are you, tired by third period? If you are, get on a bike and do something. Work on the cardiovascular. Are you feeling not as strong? Or for whatever reason, are you getting beat up in these corner battles? Or is it a situation where you really just need to work on flexibility because you're so tight, you feel like you just can't get your stride? Whatever those things are, if you really do an honest self-assessment of where you are, you can figure out the physical, you can figure out the mental, the sleeping part, how much time you spend on your phone. Think of all that stuff. Is it all going the way of somebody who's trying to get to the top? Anybody who wants to go to college, you want to go beyond that, you got to be different than other people. And it's a big sacrifice. I'm not saying you should. I'm all for you choosing your life. But at some point, you have to decide, am I really doing exceptional things to get to an exceptional place?
You look at the sum of everything that's going on in your life, like you just said. Like you have to do this deep dive and take the energy off of your coach or your teammates. Like don't look at what they're doing that impacts you. Look at yourself. Because too many times it's you get back in the holiday break and you ask someone, hey, how's it going? Oh, my coach hates me. Oh, we're in 8th place. Season's over. We're terrible. And it's like, oh, okay, well, let's look back and what are you doing that's either helping or hurting the team? So have that true talk, because not everyone's going to have the same experience in the season. There might be some athletes who really put all this time and energy into their off season, and then unfortunately they got an early season injury. So then they're trying to get themselves back to being healthy. So, there's many different ways that the season can be playing out. So have that true talk with yourself. Look back on what's been working. Look back on the time you've invested in yourself. What are you doing when it's not the team activity? Are you doing anything? Or are you just, around your team and then saying you're doing, you're working hard and that's it? Because at the end of the day, the extra hours are needed. They're going to be needed. And it's not saying that you have to hire some fancy private lesson skills coach. Like, what are you doing on your own that's going to help?
Yeah. And in some cases, you just don't know. Some cases, you don't know what's going on. Things aren't working well. And the tendency is to blame the coach. And sometimes it is the coach. Sometimes it is. Bad things happen. But more often than not, well, all the time, you can't control the coach. But you can for sure control your effort. You can control how much you put into the sport. But you might be in a position where you really don't know what's going on. You don't know what's wrong. Find a trusted friend. Find somebody, whether it's your coach, your skills coach, whoever it is. Find somebody you can talk to about where you're really at. Maybe you have an advisor. Talk to your advisor about where you're at. Because if you're the kind of person who really can't self-evaluate for whatever reason, find somebody who can. Find an honest person who will look at your game and say, well, this is what's going on here. This is what's going on here. Because undoubtedly something will be missing. I've had guys who are goal scorers who are just lazy back checkers, and it hurts them. And the coach would use them, but it wasn't helping them in their career, because unless you're a Bedard, you're not going to be allowed just to be a goal scorer. Very few guys get to do that. So really lean on people around you if you have a hard time assessing by yourself.
And one easy way to do this, stats don't tell the whole story, but they are going to tell a story. If you're a forward or you're a goal scorer, take your last 10 games, go through them all individually, go through your stat line. What did you have? Goals, assists, total points. What was your plus minus in those games? And then at the end of the day, you can take the final 10 games leading into your break and say, okay, well, I had 25 points in 10 games and I'm a plus 15. Why is my coach still not playing me more than, every other shift? Then you actually have something you can work with. And if the time gets there, that a conversation needs to be had, you have some content to go in with. Or if you're a goalie and you're telling your family how great you're playing, then you do an honest assessment, and your last 10 games, your goals against average is a 4.5 and your save percentage is 86%. Let's do some soul searching. Are you really playing that amazing? So sometimes you just need those to tell the story a little bit more for yourself, regardless of how much IQ you have of the game. Start with your points. And again, don't give yourself the excuse that, I always play against the hard teams, or, I only play every other shift, so how am I going to get points? Don't let yourself off the hook. Right? Start there and then work to what are the finer details that I can control. Okay, maybe I am a third liner and I play every other shift and I only have 5 points in 10 games, but what am I doing in the gym? Am I doing extra bike sprints? Am I shooting extra pucks? Am I doing wrist curls to get stronger? What am I doing? So that honest assessment needs to start with some facts, and then it can be worked down into the nitty gritty of what you can control more than just point production or stats.
There's an interesting thing related to this, and I don't want to use the name that he uses, but Brian Burke, coach of Victory Honda, he tends to have pretty successful, pretty heavy playing 18-year-olds. And one of his criticisms of youth hockey is that largely in youth hockey, if the teams are winning, then the kids are allowed to keep their bad habits. And it's really bad. It's really, really bad. Some of it's time, some of it's having to win. We talked about that in previous episodes. But this thing, let me make a fake name, because he references a very specific trio of people who are playing in youth hockey. And let's say the kid's name's Johnson, just to give it a kind of a generic name. He calls it the Johnson effect. And this is a kid who would sit net front. They had a very, very specific plan with 3 people, and he would sit net front, and 2 other guys would sit, and they'd have this kind of same play they did all the time. And this guy was great at just getting hit in the face with a stick and popping him in. He would just hang out right there and cherry pick. And they had a guy out in the wing who was just great at getting the pass right to him, and there was a guy who'd go up behind the net all the time and pass it up to the front. So they had this great system, and it worked all the time. But what you had was 3 guys who were good at 3 different things, but they weren't good at the things you really need to be a really good offense guy who everybody wants. And he called it like the Johnson effect, because they're winning, they're doing great, they're on power play. It looks like everything's fantastic, but when they're out on their own, and especially this one guy Johnson, he went into the OHL and he was found out, because he was a one-dimensional player. Yeah, he was doing great. He had all these points, but he was a one-dimensional player sitting in front of the net. So don't fall in love with your score sheet, because your score sheet may not be telling you the truth. Are you getting that because you're playing the game you're supposed to play for the next level? Or are you getting that because you're allowed, because the system on your line is so good that you look better than you are?
Yeah, there's many players like that. I'm sure Connor McDavid's line mate in juniors, I'm sure, had 1 billion points, and there's many players like that. And of course, there's great players that have played with great players, but that's a common theme of maybe it's just the perfect recipe of your line. Someone's the physical guy, someone's a great passer, and someone can score, and they all had super good success together. But of course, one guy, jumps up to the NHL, and the other 2 are playing the AA pro ranks with me. So, but that's a true story. But that's where that self-assessment, and that's where coaching plays a part of that. But you start there, then you can work at the other areas where you previously mentioned, like what are you doing? Like, you can't fake all the things that you're doing. Are you staying up late every night? You're playing video games till 3 a.m, but you happen to play with the best players, so you're just hiding under their wing, feeling great about your game. But I think both are, all these examples are relevant. This is the reason we wanted to bring this up. It's the midway point of the year. We know how much time and energy athletes put in the off season. We know how excitement there is at the start of the season. Could be a new team, new coach, new teammates, new expectations, new goals that were set. Now we're here midway through. Some things may have played out exactly like you wanted. More than likely, things didn't go as planned, because hockey's a tough sport. Athletics are difficult. It's not that easy just to draw your playbook and have it play out. So have this internal, honest evaluation, and then now envision yourself at the end of the year. Envision the best possible outcome that can happen. Envision it, because it's still possible. You're still in the dance. Even if you're a 7th or 8th place team, you could still have a strong second half and help your team be propelled to find a way to have the final success of a championship. Like, just because you're at a certain level right now doesn't mean that's how it's got to play out.
No, absolutely. So I think just to summarize all this, enjoy your break, enjoy your time, find a way to balance your life, spend time with family, but you don't need to spend a lot of time doing the self-assessment. You can figure out the self-assessment thing in maybe half hour, an hour. It doesn't, maybe 20 minutes. It wouldn't take long. Depends how you're doing at the time. But look at the time you spend on your phone. Look at the time you spend doing things goofing off. It doesn't take a big commitment to sit in a room or talk with somebody you trust to figure out, where am I right now? What am I going to do? And then when you do that thing, like Jeff's talking about, you have a chance to start right then making a plan. What am I going to do different? Is it a little more time in the gym? Is it extra skill stuff? Is it better nutrition? Is it finding a way to turn off the phone and actually sleeping 8 hours straight in a dark room What is it going to be? Or is it going to be waking up next to your phone going, it's 2,000 views of the same things you fell asleep with TikTok on? Figure it out. Make your choices. This is your life, but the clock's ticking all the time. Jeff, you want to take us out?
Yeah, and we just want you to remember, you set goals at the start of the year. They meant something to you at the time. There's going to be adversity. There always is. Now it's your time to look back. How did you react to those certain situations? But there's the common phrase, if you're not growing, you're dying. So find a way to keep growing in the right direction and find a way to finish your season strong. So listeners, thanks again for all the time you put in. Hopefully we've inspired you to take action in one way or another. Just remember to stay dialed and driven on your goals, as that's the only way to accomplish success.
Jeff Lerg! One of the best saves you will ever see, keeps this game alive.
Here's Palmer again, the Hockey Mentality Podcast, dialed and driven.